Welcome back on the 145th episode of The Leaders Who Care. I have the privilege today to welcome Dr. Badshah as distinguished practitioner at the University of Washington at the Evans School of Public Policy and Governments and also faculty advisor of the START Center in the Department of Global Health. But above all, also, we're really inspired by the work he has done with philanthropy, being really executive across a number of industries and leading the Microsoft philanthropic efforts for more than 10 years. And as you know, we're on a mission to bring together some of the most caring leaders who not only achieve the exceptional results, but also they led with care and values that are human-centric and really made a difference. So I really appreciate. Thank you so much, and welcome on the Leaders Who Care, Akhtar. Really, really great to have you today.
Thank you very much, Marian. I'm delighted to be with you.
Well, it's really inspirational what you have been doing, and since part of our audience is the up-and-coming leaders from Gen Z, but also current leaders of today. Um, we often see a lot of eagerness. People want to be successful, really, and they go on and do many great things. But um, at the end of the day, when you become successful, then you start thinking of for what purpose? Why am I doing what I'm doing? So really would like to understand a little bit more that you've said a purpose mindset is not about giving, it's about reframing. How do you go from a transactional mindset to a purposeful mindset, especially for the ones who haven't yet found their purpose?
Yeah, thank you very much, Marian. So, all our lives, from childhood, even as parents, we kind of teach our kids to develop a transactional mindset, right? We are essentially saying, hey, do this, we will give you candy. You get good grades, we will buy you X. So
Yeah.
essentially, all we are doing is really getting people to, right from the beginning, focus on the how, right? That we want them to work hard, study hard first, work hard, so that they can have something, which is a family, a life, a job, a house, a car, fame, wealth, so that they can then be happy. The challenge is that we can go through all our lives and still not be happy. Because happiness is very different. So, what I am positioning is that every single one of us has a why, which is our purpose. Except that we don't get young people and anybody to really articulate their why. Why do you exist? Marian, you kind of discovered your why very early on because of the environment that you were put in, and very early on with you and your wife actually started to say we should be doing training and leadership development in a different way, which most of us go through our whole life without really focusing on the why, simply because we focused on the how, what we want to do and how we want to do it. So what I try and do is to get people to step back and really focus on three things. What are your strengths? Articulate your strengths. What are your values? Articulate your values. And then from that, craft a purpose statement, a personal purpose statement that then becomes your North Star. So it's not that every day you will lead a life of purpose. It's not that every day you will apply your values. It's not that every day you will show up with strengths, but you will try. And that allows you to then discover, not focused on being happy, but being focused on being content, having meaning, and being fulfilled. And at the end of the day, we should all be thinking about what you have just talked about, right? That leaders who care. When you care, you get joy. Joy is a collective thing, right? You can't be joyful on your own. You can be happy on your own, and somebody in the next room may be sad. But to spread joy is when you care. So, purpose allows you to get to that point where you can care and you can be full of joy.
That's really inspirational in many ways, and I always try to do as much as possible to even inspire leaders, even some of them at the highest level. That because sometimes they can very easily get carried away with your career, and you want to get the CEO title or achieve X number of millions, or even in some case hundreds if not billions. But then when you achieve that, the question is, for for how long you're gonna be happy for? Like you've achieved that goal, then you need another one. So really, what would be your advice really to those leaders that perhaps are not there yet and not mature? What's the trigger? How could they really start going deeper? Normally, I've seen people when they have some pain or some cataclysmic event, something happens for them to rethink. But why should it be that way? Why can we not, really, or they start to be ahead?
Yeah, so yeah, no, so exactly, right? So again, I don't want to discourage people from doing what they want to do. You want to be a CEO? Great, be a CEO. You want to be a barista? Be a barista. You want to be a person that is working with your hands? Go ahead and do that. But in everything you do, you can show up with purpose. That purpose is a mindset shift. Is how are you showing up with purpose where the focus is not just on yourself, which is the me, but on the we and the collective good. Right? So when you do a survey, when we've done surveys, you can, in any organization, you can find a third of the people are driven by purpose, a third are driven by wealth, and a third are driven by status. And that's fine because at different stages of life, certain things might be your driver. But for everyone, even for the ones that are focused on wealth creation or status building, you could still have purpose as your secondary driver,
Mm.
right? So let's take it like you are an immigrant, I'm an immigrant. When we came in as immigrants, our first response was to get settled. Right? So one is you get a status, which is a visa or something that actually allows you to stay in that country, and then you want to generate resources. Right? So that's what is driving you. And that is fine. But if your secondary driver is your purpose, then you're doing that in a way that you tried to show up, that you showed up, which is, hey, I am not only going to study and study hard and be the best because I'm the youngest in the university, I'm also going to take it to others. So that's the way to kind of think about it, right? So you can be a great CEO and fine. But if you are living with purpose, then that chasing of constant chasing stops. Because every day you're giving back, you're showing up, you're contributing in small ways, right? So that keeps you fulfilled and it keeps the focus on the community and not just on you.
That is a great reminder, really. That's one of the things that I look in leaders is, do you develop um, people after you or behind you? How do you develop them? Because often is we see people get promoted of who do you know, and kind of having a good communication skills, uh, and not what do you know and how many do you develop behind you, right? It's like really the critical dilemma and the critical situation. If you don't develop others, then it's for that organization is difficult to grow. You just then focus on
Yeah,
your
yeah.
own growth, and that's what I see is really important to kind of measure your part of your success of what do you do for others.
So I bring lots of senior folks into my classroom, right? I teach a business leadership course. I bring in people from Microsoft, from Starbucks, from Amazon. These are senior executives, right? I mean, C-suite level folks. And every single person that comes into my class talks about leadership is not just about you. It's not about you growing. It is about who you bring along with you. Who do you help grow? If you can help two people grow, you will grow with them. If you help five people grow, you will grow with them. So, this title of what you have, leaders who care, leaders who are successful will always care. Now, you will also have leaders who have suddenly become successful who don't care. But that to me is not true leadership. Leadership is only when people actually bring and invest in others. Otherwise, companies are going to will just not survive. And that's what you see. And now, with the age of AI and technology, you will have to be far more careful as to how you invest in people who care. Otherwise, we are just going to be driven by this constant notion of increased productivity. And then the human aspect will just completely disappear. And then productivity for what?
Yeah. Back in the days in the Netherlands, right, when they started business, was a village got together to solve the problem of water floods by building, a barrier or building a windmill to help the village because one or two families couldn't do it. And then it became a business, right? So the business had a purpose to solve this problem. And the same, I believe, goes for businesses. What's the purpose of that business, right? What problem do you solve?
So, most companies don't have a purpose, an
Hmm.
articulated purpose. We have a mission statement, we have a vision statement, we have values, but we don't have a purpose statement. What we do is we work with companies to get them to articulate their purpose. And once you have an articulated purpose, and then you get individuals to articulate their purpose, then you can draw connections between their work. Because McKinsey did a study in April of 2021, which they titled Help Your Employees Find Purpose or They Will Leave. What we saw during COVID was 59 million people was leaving jobs because they did not find meaning in it. But the question is that we ourselves don't know what meaning we want from our work because we have not articulated our own purpose. So we go from job to job trying to find purpose. Companies have not articulated their purpose. So now there is a mismatch. So what we do is to get individuals to articulate their purpose, organizations to articulate their purpose, and then help build connections. We want to be very careful that we don't build alignment. Because if you are fully aligned, your purpose and your company's purpose, then I think you're just a robot. You're doing nothing else but work. But in life, we need to show up for ourselves, for our family, for our community, for our faith, and then our work.
You said,
And
sorry, you said you're not aligned. The company purpose and your person is not aligned. What do you mean by that? Because often I see people, we got to align on values and purpose. So it's exactly the opposite.
correct. So I'm saying it's not about alignment. Because see, if you try and find alignment, you will never find alignment. You can't have 10,000 people with different purposes actually aligned to one purpose of a company. But there are pieces of the purpose that can be connected, right? So you have certain strengths, the organization requires certain strengths. So you can look at where the connections are and then strengthen those connections. Once the connections are strong, then when there is a challenge, when there is tough times, it does not break. What happens is that we are constantly seeking alignment and then we say it has to be 100%. And what I teach people is that look, purpose is got from the full spectrum of life. You will get some purpose with your family, some purpose with your faith, some purpose in your community, and some aspects of your purpose is going to be fulfilled with the work that you do. And look, let's let's be clear, it's work, right? And not everything that you do at work gives you joy. But there has to be pieces of the work that give you joy. And if you start figuring that out, that lasts. And that's what we were doing at Microsoft. Through the philanthropy program, we were actually getting people to amplify their purpose. And that became an avenue for people to actually show their purpose. So during tough times in the company, they would still actually gravitate back to that little anchor that they had so the connections would not break.
It's very interesting. I'm really curious about the philanthropy program and how was it really born? I understand that Bill Gates' motto was the catalyst. Is that right for the
Correct,
philanthropy
correct,
in
correct. Yeah, so both the parents were catalysts, right? Because they were members of the community, they were established members of the community, they were both active in the community, and they wanted to ensure that their kids were also active in the community. Now, Bill, and like most of us that start a company which is a startup, our focus is just on getting the company to succeed. And it was hard to kind of make money and give money away at the same time. But Bill's mother kind of got him, forced him to kind of rethink that. And that's how the philanthropy program got launched, which was the employee giving program, which was to actually get employees to donate their time and their money into community based efforts, and the company would match that amount. And part of the reason is that they wanted to ensure that the employees got embedded in the community in things that they were interested in, so that they were not living outside of the community but were in the community. The example that you actually gave of Amsterdam, where in the Netherlands, the community came together to build something that they needed. Today we don't do that. So how do we get people who actually live in communities and work in communities to show up for the community? And this program, the employee giving program, became the way by which employees could anchor themselves, whether it is going and donating time to their school, or going to the soup kitchen, or going to the hospital, or going to other community based organizations to help out. And that then people started seeing what the rest of the community was in Seattle. Otherwise, you're sitting on campus, you're working 18 hours days, you go back home, you go back to work. So that was the most important thing that we really needed to focus on.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's I I've seen a lot of organizations and especially in the larger corporates that they do struggle. I haven't seen a comprehensive leadership or talent development programs, like really ground up. I mean, for from the entry level to mid management to executive leadership. And because this is so closely connected, right? You know, the purpose and why you're doing it. Um, but the ones that I have it, um, we see that they have a fit to lead, programs for the leader, for not only for leadership, for the organization. So they have like a good understanding of what a good leader is. And I wonder, apart from obviously so this needs to be closely connected to the wider impact in the community, but also I'm very interested in why a majority or a lot of the larger or corporate companies don't have this consistent, really development programs that assures this good leadership, caring leadership that is really consistent.
So, I mean, companies do have training programs. The challenge is that every company struggles to recreate programs. That's why there are universities. That's why there are programs that get, they send employees to go to universities. Because it's very hard for every company to kind of build their own programs, right? So they have some programs that are very focused on the company, right? This is our company. You need to have these particular skills. Let's make sure these skills are built. And then they expect that management training and leadership training will come because employees will go and get additional training from external places. Now, companies like Microsoft and others that have large amounts of resources are able to invest in these leadership programs, right? They have these programs called HIPAA, which is high performing individuals, and they kind of they take them on retreats, they get external consultants to put the programs together. The HR team has programs together. But this has been the consistent problem in work, right? It's not the company. For individuals, it is the manager. Whether you have a good manager that is competent or a manager who's been put in that role who hasn't developed management skills. And then you get stuck behind them. And then you get frustrated, and that's where you decide to leave. So it's never just the company. It is the people in the company, and in large companies, it's just your manager. And it might be not your work that you're unhappy with, but you're unhappy with the way the team is being led. And that's the biggest reason why most people leave. So this investment in management is important, but I think that there is not that much effort put behind it. And now people are trying to change and it's coming along, but again, it requires resources. And with this short-term Wall Street focus on, what you're doing and your profits, it becomes hard.
You do a lot of those advisory and consultancies. If so, here's a dilemma. If a company is struggling, let's say they're into a crisis mode, right? But what they need most in a crisis mode is exactly good management, good leadership.
Correct.
So it's ironic, but they don't have the resources. Let's say you're the CEO of that company, and we're a bunch of shareholders and pushing you and say, Akhtar, you got to act, you got to bring this company to profitability. How would you handle such a situation when there's no resources, but you need exactly what you just said, a good management?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and you just have to lean onto your board at that point in time, right? Your board needs to be able to support you to shift how you think. And again, I mean, I think that, companies also, so think about it in a slightly different way. There is a particular talent pool that is needed when the company is in a startup phase,
Yeah.
a particular talent pool that is needed when it goes to the middle phase, a particular talent field that is needed that goes through a hyper growth phase, then when it settles down. And what happens with CEOs is that they don't try and change the people across that journey. Many of them feel it's the same people that will actually be able to continue that. And in many cases, that doesn't happen. So in some cases, I have seen with my friends and all who are going through that space, they are bringing in new leaders. They are bringing in new leaders, yeah, that have had the experience in that space, managing that part of the growth strategy. And that is what is required. And that's tough decisions, right? Because you have to suddenly lay off somebody that you worked with for a while that have actually got you to this space. and now you're essentially saying, hey, you can't do it anymore, I have to let you go. But these are things that need to happen if the company has to be on a trajectory to grow. So it's this chicken and egg situation as to what levers do you pull.
Yeah, but that can be handled, right? So, and I agree with you
Yes,
completely
of
that,
course. And good companies do that, right? Companies that have actually figured that out, they will do it. Others that don't, where they struggle, then they start really going into a downward spiral.
how can you do it well, meaning in a caring way? So, and this dilemma is it's very important. Like you have a very loyal leader that got you to a stage from a startup to a hyper growth stage, but they're not fit for the hyper growth stage. So you have to change them if you wanna really do well. But then they was like so loyal, so really it's that kind of um, dilemma of how do you do it in a caring way that you take care of this leader that committed so much of their time and got you to where you are. Um, is there other roles, or do you help them to find something else? What would you do?
I mean, I think that there are multiple ways to think about it, right? One is that it can't just be a immediate decision,
Yeah.
right? Okay, you're out. It has to be a conversation, right, with those leaders. They say, look, we are going through this transition. We need new blood. We need new talent. We've got to infuse that. How are we going to make the change, and how are we going to get people to move? Right? So there is some time that is given where people are able to go find other things to do, and or give them some time. So there is a way in which you can be a little show more care than just saying you're out. Now, firing somebody is never easy. Whatever anybody says, this is the worst thing a leader has to do, is to fire people. There, there is no good way to do it. There is no easy way to do it. There is no caring way to do it, because it's relationship. You're basically breaking a relationship. But if people do it well, not all aspects of that relationship breaks. When I was letting people go, or if I was turning down a nonprofit, my goal was to get them to give me a hug.
I actually
And
disagree.
how do I do
You
that?
you can do it in a caring way. What I mean that sometimes I found is that people may want a job, they may cling into it, but actually you as a leader can see that they have a potential to do other things better. So it may be painful at this moment, but you can say, listen, this is what I see that you can do better here. Yeah, we have to make the decision, but you could still support them to find something else. So you could like support them
Absolutely.
out. So I
Yeah.
think, and then later when they start to realize, they say, actually, I do better in that role, in that aspect, because the one of the important purposes of the leader is to find and understand the strength of each individual member, and then put them in a coherent way that creates a great value. But if somebody's strength is not uh, playing or not needed into that team, or they can find their career elsewhere, or so. And I've seen situations like that. It's
Yes.
grateful for it.
No, no. And day before yesterday, I had a senior executive of a very large technology consulting company speaking in my class. And he was saying that given our circumstances, we now have to lay off people. And there are so many people who are sitting on the bench. And
Yeah.
rather than continuously just sitting on the bench and doing nothing, it might actually be good for them to be told to go. We can help them find something else outside. Otherwise, they're just sitting there doing nothing. And it's not good for their career, it's not good for their morale. So there are ways in which people can care. And I think what you are saying is that everyone should remember that there is a way in which you can make change, but you can do it by being caring and purposeful.
Yes.
And if you're really driven with purpose, care becomes integral part of it.
Absolutely. And on that point, of companies letting people go, and since you're from the technology world and really, so I'm very interested of what could be the ramification now with AI and why a lot of companies have to let people go. What's the need currently?
Well, I mean, I think there are multiple things that are going on, right? There is, I think that there is a slightly misguided focus on productivity and efficiency. I think one of the things that I talk about as part of a purpose driven mindset is not to focus on efficiency, but to focus on being effective. And they're two completely different things. Technology today has not got to a point where it is being effective. It is actually making us efficient. And efficiency is not just the answer. So all companies are now looking at AI and saying it will make us more efficient, so we will become more productive. But then to what end? If you are hyper productive and then you create large unemployment and there is nobody to buy your product, right? Now, if hundreds of millions of people are going to get let go and you suddenly become very efficient, you're not effective because you're not able to sell your product because people can't buy it. So people have to start thinking, have a little bit of a foresight to actually look at and say, are we going to start, if we start replacing people at the rate at which we are replacing, who's going to buy stuff from us? Right? Why do you even have companies then?
Yeah, no, what they're gonna do? I mean, you could talk about be more creative and but I'm very curious on to hear your thoughts on the fractional kind of roles and fractional really work that more and more is emerging because what I see that at some point executives decide to no longer just do a full-time job and they want to do like multiple things. And is that possible? Is that what I'm trying to get is what's the future of work look like given the AI, given the efficiency, effectiveness? What would what could people do really? Imagine 10, 20 years down the line, how the world could look like, the world of work especially. How are we gonna like really interact and create value, right?
I mean, so I believe that you will actually have a world fractured into three groups.
Mm-hmm.
There is going to be a group that is going to be the super haves.
Super
They're
what?
the people that are super haves,
Okay, super
people
hands.
that have a lot. The
Okay.
super haves, they are the ones that are going to be driving this technology. They're going to be fully immersed in this technology. They will have the ability to get the most out of this technology and they will thrive in multiple ways. And that will be all over the world, whether it's in Africa, it's in India, it's in Eastern Europe. There will be a bunch of people that are going to be super haves. And they will have a larger control of every resource. Then there is going to be the middle, where most of us are going to kind of say, yeah, we can manage some of this, we know some of this, we are useful, we've got something, and we're getting some productivity gains, and we will constantly struggle to get the best out of it. And then there is going to be a group of people that are going to be the super have nots. They are just going to be so far behind that they will get no value out of this. And many will actually want to get disengaged from this approach and say, we want to be the super have nots. We are just going to go away somewhere and live our lives on our own. And you're going to get a fractured society if you're not very careful. Because at this rate, you cannot expect the human mind to continuously. I mean, people, oh, look how productive I am by using ChatGPT. Now it's writing my text more efficiently. How does it matter whether you get ChatGPT to write an email or you? How many emails are you going to write? So it's this ability to say that I don't want to do anything, and then suddenly you will be like Yuval Harari is saying, that you will have a useless class, highly trained people that have nothing to do. What are they going to do then? How are we going to think about it? So, this over reliance on technology, and I know that technology is hard. There has always been the world where technological changes have happened, but they have generally impacted people to move from using their hands to using their mind. And we've slowly been able to train people to stop using their hands to using their minds. Not very well, because a lot of people suffered in the process. But now we've got to a point where we are actually saying, some of you, even though if you have a mind, there is no role for your mind. Right? Because technology is going to do all of these things. So you should now just go away. How is that going to work? I'm sorry, I'm painting a much darker picture than it should be, but that's unless we are careful and unless we infuse care and purpose into all decision making, you will get down the slippery slope where people are just going to be focused on efficiency and productivity gains and not really focused on the improvement of humanity as humanity needs to be, not what AI and computers need to be.
Well, now the question is exactly that point that if you switch to the optimistic and more caring future, right? What do you think leaders should focus on? What the humanity should be? What are the kind of things you would love to see?
I mean, I'd love to see a couple of things, right? One, how do we get everybody really focused on working with their strengths? Let's get humans to work with their strengths. Stop focusing on our weaknesses. Second, focus on being effective and not just efficient.
Just to
Right?
dissect this effective, efficient, what do you mean by the difference?
So here is how I will actually characterize it for you. I can focus on reducing cost. Right? So I can say, hey, we are spending $600 to do something. Let's bring it down to $500 so we can do more of it. Now you can actually go into a cost cutting environment. You can say, let's become efficient. Let's fire 3 people and we will get that cost down to 500. Or you can shift the lens and say, let's be effective. How can I do in a way by training people to say, Marian is actually very good at doing this. Akhtar is a little slow. Maybe Marian can actually train Akhtar to become as effective. Now you actually increase the productivity without actually cutting costs. Right? So now you can actually, and we've seen that. I've worked with organizations where they've gone from something costing them $600 per surgery to $150 per surgery because they were able to train people to do surgeries much more effectively rather than cutting people from doing the surgery. So it's this frame that needs to change.
That's very interesting because then everybody can have more for less.
Correct. So now you're kind of looking at it and say, so the focus is not about doing things the right way. It is about picking the right thing to do. And how do you make that decision? So we've got to get into the world of actually picking the right thing to do, which is the world which is about caring, which is the world which is about purpose. And then the third thing I would leave, the third thing is,
You want to see, yeah.
Look, we are no longer in the age of just creating organizations. We are actually creating movements. And movements don't need managers. Movement need those that are catalyzers. Movement needs those that are conductors. Movement. So there is a whole different leadership skills that need to come about that actually motivate people to do things by getting them to become effective than just managing the process flow. So how do we kind of reframe that? And then eventually it is about moving from the path of being generous to empathetic to compassionate. And compassionate is that inner circle where you start caring about people the way you care about your family, anybody. And once you get to that level, then the focus is not just on the self,
Mm.
but it is on the community at large. And that's when you then move into that space of a purpose driven world.
Isn't that what Jesus did, right? But that's why people don't follow Genghis Khan or Alexander the Great because they were conquerors. There's like a good history. They've done a lot, but if you look at, exactly what you just described, is that deep love and care for others to a point where he's ready to sacrifice his own life. So it's just thinking of like what you just described, generous, to compassionate. Like, how do you, is that a journey, enlightenment that people need to go through?
And I just want to be careful that not all of us are going to be Jesus. We are not
Oh,
all going to be
well,
Mother Teresa. We're not going to be Nelson Mandela's. We are
very high
not going to give our
title.
life away, right? So there are few of us that will do that. But if we are all part of that journey from moving from being just generous, which is episodic, to being compassionate, which is really how you've changed your mind and your soul, then we actually start becoming much more of a caring and purposeful society. Right? So it's not about all of us Sunday saying, hey, I'm going to become selfless and I will do, but let's be on that journey where the focus starts going away from your focus of being happy to bringing joy.
If you bring joy to others, you it's kind of becomes you become joyful and happy. It's like it's by taking care of others, you take care of yourself in a way. Like this is whatever goes around comes around, right? It's this by
Exactly.
by
Exactly.
really by being refreshing others, you get refreshed yourself. So it's like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really well, I love what you just said. There's so many takeaways here, Akhtar. I really, really appreciate that. And what you just mentioned, really picking the right thing to do, right? Really on and be on that journey, from just being and managing the process to motivating people, um, and getting them that to be more effective, and really to do the things in a good way that they can do more, and everybody benefits from that because it's accessible.
I thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it.
I I'm very interested to hear your thoughts about the up and coming generation. And do you think Gen Z have high expectations on employers today of
Yeah.
giving back, or what is your view on that? And how because you meet a lot of leaders today at the top, how are they dealing with the up and coming generation?
So I work with students,
Yeah.
right? So I work with that community. I work with undergrads. I have hundreds of students that go through that I interact with. And one thing is that people are far more aware today than I was about the world when I was growing up.
Yeah.
It's not that people, when I was growing up, were not engaged in the community, were not doing activism, were not, every generation has its activists and every generation has. But today, because of the access you have to resources, whether it is through media, through all sorts of things. You are far more globally connected than you were ever before. Therefore, people have a far bigger sense of understanding as to what is happening around the world. They are becoming far more conscious of where they want to be part of and what do they want to be part of. I have three boys and I understand, all three of them show up very differently because of their ages and how they pick and choose what they want to do and how they are going to do and what they grew up with and where they are now. So organizations and leaders and business leaders have to be very careful that today those that are coming into the workforce want to see their participating in the workforce in a very different way. They are not just coming to work. They're coming because it is one part of their life. But there are other parts of their life that is going to be equally important to them. And they will move. They will move if they don't find that ability to live the way they want to live in harmony. People are shifting from that thinking of a work-life balance, that I go to work and then I go home. People actually want to be able to live a life of harmony, where there are times where they will work much harder. There are times they will focus on their family more. There are times where they will be traveling and doing other things. And they want the flexibility to be able to do that and how they want to do it. So you are seeing some of those barriers already falling down in how we expect people to show up, how they are, what kind of work they want to do. And of course, within all of that, you still have this three groups of people. A third motivated with purpose, a third motivated with money, and a third motivated with status. But how they want to show up changes. And leaders of companies and organizations have to be cognizant of that people that are actually coming into your workforce come with very different expectations. And in many cases, they are ready to shift and vote with their feet.
Thank you for sharing all of that. And talking a little bit more about you, art is also something important in your life, isn't it?
Correct.
How do you take care of yourself? How do you recharge?
You know, I'm not the best example of doing this. But I'll tell you, everybody has a slightly different way of how they do these things. There are times, like I said, I'm very focused on certain things that I'm doing, and then other things go into the background. Like my art for now is just in the background. Those are my paintings. They are behind you. They're behind me. I have a few canvases lying behind my chair that are half worked on. I have my table here where I do my art. I have my paints underneath here. And I have not touched my art for over a year and a half. But there will be suddenly a moment will come where I will suddenly start taking everything out and start painting, and then I will just paint. And then I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll go paint. So for me, it is how I function. But today, the way I take care of myself is that I go for a walk for 5 miles every day, every single day on my own. This is my time to listen to my music and just clear my head. Sometimes I do it early in the morning, sometimes I do it in the afternoon, sometimes I do it at night, sometimes I do it in the plane, sometimes I do it at the airport, but I will walk. That is just my time. I've done that for 5 years now, and that is one way to renew my energy. But the other way that I want people to understand that you can renew your energy is through purpose. Purpose is your light switch. It is that source of renewable energy that drives you forward. When you get down on you, go back and look at your purpose statement, look at your strengths, look at your values, and just use it a little bit. And that starts recharging your batteries. Right? So for some, it's going to the beach. For some, I have kids who are right now sitting on the beach because that's how they like to get recharged. I have other kids who like to go up on the mountain and climb. That's how they like to get recharged. Some like to travel and go and visit cities. So do what you think helps you, but do something consistently. In my day, it's this one little thing that I do daily, and that helps. I hope in some form or the other.
Because you do so many things, I'm really interested. Of course, you also an advisor and in the business school at the Bothell campus, right? And faculty advisor at the Start Center in Department of Global Health. What
Yes.
what is your involvement and just that's linked to really the recharging and our well-being and health? Why are you involved in this? What's the kind of driver for
So
it?
I like to do way too many things, and I've got to learn how to stop not doing too many things. But part of the thing is that I my journey has been in four different phases. I started off as an architect. I'm a trained architect. I taught architecture, practiced architecture. Then I moved into the nonprofit sector, spent a decade in the nonprofit sector, did worked at Microsoft and did philanthropy for a decade. And now this is my last kind of official work decade where I've been teaching. And I've been teaching whatever I want to teach. And there are departments that have given me space to go do what I want. So I teach at the business school because I can bring that connection. I teach at the Evans School for Public Policy because I talk about philanthropy and nonprofits and social entrepreneurship. And at the Department of Global Health, I work at the Start Center where we do a lot of consulting work with students as the primary driver of the projects and faculty just helping. And we do a lot of work with the Gates Foundation, which gives us lots of projects with our students to work on. And why I do all of these different things is that it just keeps me agile and my brain can use lots of different sets of information. So I don't just get stuck into one thing. Right? So 2 days a week I teach on business, then I teach on philanthropy, then I'm doing global health, then I'm doing purpose. So it allows for this brain to continuously look for new information. And that's the way I like it. It's not the way everybody likes it. There are certain people who just want to take a discipline and go deep into it, and that is absolutely fine. But that's just the way I am. Probably I've got ADT, I cannot sit still. So I like to kind of go find different things to do.
And look, doing all of those things, I'll be very curious to hear more about your purpose. What are what is your purpose? Now you've done so many things.
So my purpose has been to bend the arc of humanity by using my strengths and my values to ensure that every single individual in the world can help has crafted their own personal purpose. So everything that I do is by getting more and more people around the world to articulate their purpose and use it. And I think if we can get everybody in the world to use their purpose, lots of these issues that we are talking about will fall apart. That's my belief. That's the journey I'm on. Whether I'm never going to be successful, because there will always be somebody who's not written their purpose statement. But I can get to a point where I can create lots of different lighthouses. People who believe in this will take it and do it on their own. And that's the journey.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Akhtar. And final, well, first of all, before we finish the final question, if anyone, obviously, if our listeners or companies are interested in getting in touch with you, for whether this is for providing a training or advisory, do you do any of that? Could they reach out to you? What's
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am on LinkedIn. It's Akhtar Badshah. There's only one Akhtar Badshah on LinkedIn. You can find me. I am, you can just Google me. You can send me an email at Akhtar, AKHTARB, at outlook.com and connect with me. We have a website which is purpose-mindset.org. You can go check us out there. There are lots of videos. We do a podcast on living with purpose. You can check that out on the 3 platforms, on YouTube, on Spotify, on iTunes. Yeah, I mean, there are lots of different ways to connect with me. So please do. But more importantly, use your strengths, use your values.
Appreciate that. And if you had all the resources in the world, what is one thing you'd like to change?
So, so here, I'm not sure that it's the resources. I actually today believe that the world is going to change because of young people. The world is going to become better because people in their 20s and 30s are going to start taking leadership. That has always been the case. And I think the more quickly we start giving them trust to take on these big responsibilities, the better off we are all going to be. So if I had the resources, I would really pour resources into young people so that they can drive the change that they want to see, and not me driving change what I want to see, because it may not be what the young people want.
But also they need good mentors and good guidance.
Yes, but that will always come. But let's face it, right? Most Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, the Dalai Lama, you take all of these people started off when they were in their 20s. Nobody waited for them to be 50 or 70
Actually,
years old.
Jesus started when he was 30,
That's correct. That's what I'm trying to say. That we were all
but he only did it
we
for
were,
3 years.
yeah. So people who made change, even the Constitution of the United States was crafted by people who were in their 30s.
I mean, you can
So
say from early days, but it's true, and I believe that's why we support as a founder of Leader Academy, helping more than 3,000 Gen Z leaders, and most of our employees are from that generation. We believe in them. We give them a lot of responsibility. We train them.
yeah,
We bring them, and I very much relate to that. So thank you really for giving the shout out to the next generation and to the current inspiring, actually being a true force of inspiration, because you speak from wealth of experience from the highest level, and that really matters. So thank you so much. Really, may God bless you and your work and your
same
family.
here.
And really, thank you for being a leader who care, Akhtar, and have a wonderful rest of the year and many more to come.
Thank you very much, Marian. And again, congratulations what you do, and keep doing it. And anytime I can help you, call out.
Appreciate it.